We all look for a light to guide us through the storms of life. This could be why we are so fascinated with lighthouses. They are the guiding beacon of hope and safety for ships during storms. Before lighthouses, sailors hugged the coast, relying on bonfires atop cliffs to guide them through the darkness. These smoky beacons, fed by local hands, were simple but vital. Giant flaming arrows pointing the way to safety. It was humanity's first stand against the darkness, a fiery declaration. We are here and we intend to travel safely. The Pharaohs of Alexandria was the rock superstar of lighthouses, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, towering over 300 feet, guiding ships with a blazing fire and legendary mirror. Its legacy endures, setting the standard for all lighthouses to come. The Romans, as we all know, were not a people to do things by halves. If they saw a good idea, they didn't just adopt it, they standardized it, replicated it, and built it all over their vast and sprawling empire. And so it was with lighthouses. Having seen the stupendous success of the pharaohs, they thought, right, we'll have some of that. Roman engineers, ever the pragmatists, took the grand concept of the Alexandrian tower and created a more modest, functional, and easily reproducible model. They were the flat-pack furniture builders of the ancient world, and they were about to furnish their empire with lighthouses. All across the Mediterranean and up the Atlantic coast, from the Black Sea to the shores of Britannia, the Romans erected their own network of pharai. 2 of the most famous examples were built at Dover, on the white cliffs overlooking the English Channel, to guide their galleys into the crucial port of Dubris. One of these, the Roman Pharaohs at Dover Castle, still stands today, albeit as a ruin. It's a stout octagonal tower, built of flint and layered with red tiles, a classic Roman design choice. It may not have the glamour of its Alexandrian predecessor, but it was built to last, and it did its job perfectly. The Roman approach was all about practicality. Their lighthouses were typically squat, sturdy and functional, often built as part of a larger fort complex. They were strategically placed at key ports and dangerous headlands, forming a vital chain of communication and safety for their military and merchant fleets. The light source remained a simple open fire on the top platform, but the Romans understood the importance of height and position. By placing these towers on prominent cliffs, they maximized the visibility of the fire without needing to build a structure of ridiculous proportions. It was efficient, effective, and very, very Roman. The fall of the Roman Empire, however, meant the lights started to go out across Europe. As the empire crumbled, the infrastructure that supported these beacons fell into disrepair. The organized system of maintenance disappeared, and one by one the fires on the towers died down, leaving coastlines dark once more. For several centuries, known as the Dark Ages, maritime navigation took a step backwards. The great Roman network of lights became forgotten ruins, silent stone shells that no longer served their purpose. It would take a long time for the world to rediscover the importance of lighting its shores on such a grand scale again. As the Dark Ages gave way to the medieval period, lighthouses began to make a slow and steady comeback. But the job of keeping the light had changed. With the decline of large state-funded projects like the Roman ones, the responsibility often fell to a different kind of keeper, the religious hermit. Monastic orders, particularly those living in coastal areas, saw the tending of a light as a sacred duty. They would build small chapels or oratories on dangerous headlands with a lantern room on top. Keeping the flame alive was an act of piety, a way to serve God by saving the lives of sailors. Life for these early keepers was one of extreme solitude and devotion. Imagine living in a small stone cell on a wind-blasted cliff, your only companions being the seabirds and the Almighty. Your days and nights would be dictated by the needs of the lamp. This wasn't a simple bonfire anymore. Technology had advanced slightly to oil lamps with wicks, which needed constant attention. You would have to haul oil up the tower, trim the charred wicks to ensure a bright, clean flame, and polish the rudimentary reflectors made of polished metal to cast the light as far as possible. It was a relentless, repetitive, and deeply isolated existence. The most famous example of this kind of lighthouse is the Tour d'Aigues-Mortes in France, or the Lanterna of Genoa in Italy, which was first run by monks. These men were not engineers or sailors, they were keepers of a sacred flame. Their reward wasn't a salary, but the belief that they were performing a divine service. Passing ships would sometimes leave donations or tithes as thanks for the guiding light, which helped sustain the keeper and pay for the oil. It was a system built on faith and charity, a far cry from the imperial might that built the pharaohs. This era established a core truth about lighthouse keeping that would endure for centuries. It was a life of profound loneliness. Whether you were a hermit monk seeking spiritual solitude or later a paid keeper employed by a maritime authority, the job demanded a certain temperament. You had to be self-reliant, resilient, and comfortable with your own company for very long stretches of time. The sea was your constant neighbor, and the wind your constant companion. This was the dawn of the archetypal lighthouse keeper, a figure of quiet dedication, standing a lonely vigil against the vast, unforgiving darkness of the sea. As Europe entered the Renaissance, trade boomed and ships grew. Suddenly, safe navigation was vital. The Great Relighting began. Lighthouses were built bigger, brighter, and better. Cordouen Lighthouse, the Versailles of the sea, symbolized this new ambition. Innovation followed, laying the foundation for a golden age of maritime safety. The Eddystone Rocks were notorious for wrecking ships, until John Smeaton changed everything. Inspired by the strength of oak trees, Smeaton built a lighthouse with interlocking granite blocks and waterproof cement. His design became the blueprint for lighthouses worldwide, a triumph of human ingenuity over nature. For centuries, lighthouse lights were inefficient, wasting most of their glow. Then came the Fresnel lens, a masterpiece of optical engineering. Invented by Augustin-Jean Fresnel, it captured and focused light into a powerful beam. Suddenly, lighthouses became brilliant beacons, guiding ships safely for miles. Armed with Smeaton's rock-solid building techniques and Fresnel's revolutionary lenses, the 19th century witnessed an unprecedented explosion in lighthouse construction. It was a full-blown global beacon boom. As colonial empires expanded and international trade flourished, maritime nations embarked on ambitious campaigns to illuminate every dangerous corner of their coastlines and shipping lanes. This was nation-building on an epic scale, a way of taming the wild frontiers of the ocean and projecting power and safety across the globe. Lighthouses became symbols of progress, modernity, and control. In Britain, the Stephenson family, a dynasty of Scottish engineers spanning 3 generations, including the grandfather of author Robert Louis Stevenson, became legendary. Images credit OdysseyTraveler.com. They specialized in building lighthouses in the most spectacularly impossible locations imaginable. They conquered rocks like Bell Rock and Skerryvore, building elegant, wave-swept towers that stand to this day as monuments to their skill and daring. These projects were sagas of human endurance, taking years to complete against the relentless onslaught of the North Atlantic. The Stephensons weren't just building lighthouses, they were waging a war against the sea, and they were winning. This construction frenzy was mirrored across the Atlantic. The United States, with its vast and rapidly developing coastline, established the United States Lighthouse Board in 1852 to oversee a massive expansion. From the rocky shores of New England to the hurricane-prone coasts of the Gulf of Mexico and the foggy Pacific Northwest, hundreds of new towers were erected. Each region developed its own architectural style, from the classic brick towers of the East Coast to the skeletal iron structures needed on the soft, sandy foundations of the Florida Keys. Lighthouses became an integral part of the American landscape, guiding ships laden with immigrants, goods, and gold. This golden age was not just about quantity, but also about character. Each lighthouse had its own unique day mark, its distinctive paint pattern like the candy stripes of Cape Hatteras or the checkerboard of Cape Lookout, so it could be identified during the day. At night, its rotating Fresnel lens produced a specific light characteristic, its signature flash pattern, allowing mariners to pinpoint their exact location. 1 flash every 10 seconds? That's Boston Light. 2 flashes every 20? That must be Pigeon Point. The coastlines of the world were being mapped, not just with lines on a chart, but with a network of light, each beacon a unique and reassuring personality in the darkness. The rise of the modern lighthouse brought with it a new breed of keeper, disciplined, skilled, and utterly dedicated. No longer hermits, these were ex-mariners and military men entrusted with the care of a miniature kingdom, the Tower. Their days were a relentless cycle of cleaning, winding clockwork, and polishing the precious Fresnel lens until it gleamed. Every task mattered. A single mistake could spell disaster for ships at sea. Isolation was intense. Months on end with only a couple of companions, cut off by storms, reliant on rare supply boats. They became masters of self-sufficiency, forced to fix, cook, and coexist in cramped quarters. The psychological strain was real. Endless wind, crashing waves, and monotony could break even the toughest. Yet many found deep pride in their work, knowing their vigilance saved lives. Their logbooks reveal not just technical notes, but observations of nature's beauty and brutality. Lighthouse keepers were silent guardians, living in a world defined by darkness and light, storm and calm. Their legacy, steadfastness in the face of isolation and danger. Now for a story that chills to the bone, The Mystery of Eileen Moore. December 1900, Flannan Isles, Scotland. 3 experienced keepers vanish without a trace. The lighthouse light goes out. A relief keeper arrives to find the place eerily silent, a meal untouched, and only one oilskin missing. The logbook tells of a terrifying storm, men acting strangely, and a final entry. Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all. But no storms were reported in the area. What happened? Officially, a freak wave swept them away, but the details don't add up. Why did all 3 leave the tower? Why the strange log entries? Theories abound. Sea monsters, spies, ghosts, even aliens. The truth remains locked in stone. The lighthouse stands as a monument to one of the sea's greatest unsolved mysteries. Sometimes the edge of the world swallows people whole. Eileen Moore keeps it secret, and the light burns on, watched by no one. If Eileen Moore is a tale of vanishing, St. Augustine Lighthouse in Florida is a story of spirits that never left. This black and white tower is famed as one of America's most haunted places. Visitors report ghostly laughter, cigar smoke, and shadowy figures, especially the spirits of 2 young girls, Eliza and Mary, who drowned during construction. Their giggles echo on the stairs, and some claim to see a girl in blue or feel a cold hand in the dark. There's also the ghost of a keeper, Mr. Andrea, and the mysterious man in blue, still patrolling the catwalk. Paranormal investigators flock here, drawn by countless eerie encounters. Is it suggestion, or do the intense emotions of lighthouse life leave a lasting echo? Either way, if you visit, bring a friend and maybe don't look behind you. The past lingers in every shadow. Make sure you take one of the amazing ghost tours while you are in the area. St. Augustine's light shines on for the living and the lost. Not all lighthouse tales are grim. Some are gloriously absurd. Take Denmark's Rubjerg Knud Lighthouse. Built in 1900, it faced a slow-motion burial by relentless sand dunes and creeping coastal erosion. By 2019, the tower teetered on the cliff's edge, doomed to fall into the sea. The Danes could have let it go, but instead, they decided to move the entire 720-ton lighthouse inland. Engineers dug out the foundations, set the tower on rails, and rolled it 70 meters to safety, cheered on by thousands. It was a feat of stubborn ingenuity. A lighthouse on roller skates, defying nature's plans. Now, Rubjerg Knud stands safe, a testament to wild solutions and the will to preserve. Sometimes the best answer is the craziest one. The lighthouse refused to die, saved from the sea and from a mountain of sand. It's a monument to human determination and a little bit of madness. The light endures against all odds. Rubjerg Knud, the lighthouse that moved house. And it's not going anywhere soon. Imagine the most inhospitable place for a lighthouse. Welcome to Tillamook Rock, Oregon. Nicknamed Terrible Tilly, it's a basalt sea stack battered by Pacific storms, feared by local tribes as a place of evil spirits. The first surveyor was swept away and lost before construction even began. Workers endured a year of storms, living in tents bolted to the rock, carving out a platform for the tower. When lit in 1881, keepers became prisoners. Isolated for weeks by raging seas, storms hurled boulders through the lantern room. The foghorn's wail drove men to the brink. Some claimed to see phantoms in the mist, haunted by the rock's fury. After 76 brutal years, Tilly was decommissioned and turned into a mausoleum for the dead. Now it stands as a tomb on the edge of the world, a monument to the most extreme, terrifying job on Earth. Terrible Tilly, where the sea, the wind, and the past never let go. The light is gone, but the legend remains. For centuries, lighthouse keepers trimmed wicks and polished lenses. But the 20th century brought automation, replacing keepers with sensors, timers, and electric lamps. Now, lighthouses turn on by themselves, and the need for a human presence faded away. The robots came, but they never cared for polishing brass to a mirror shine. Lighthouses have transformed. Gone are massive lamps and keepers. Now, tiny, powerful LEDs light the way. Efficient, reliable, and solar-powered. The grand old towers stand as historic shells, while modern beacons, small and smart, guide ships from even the most remote coasts. It's progress, though it feels a bit like swapping a cathedral for a garden shed. With keepers gone and lights automated, what do we do with all these empty lighthouses? Many are now restored, repurposed as museums, hotels, or even private homes, preserving their legacy and beauty for new generations. No longer just navigational aids, lighthouses have become beloved landmarks, guardians of their own remarkable history. Even with all the automation and new technology, the story of the lighthouse isn't over. In fact, you could say it's simply entered a new phase, with a new kind of keeper. These aren't salaried employees living in the towers, but a global army of passionate volunteers, history buffs, and dedicated communities. They are the new keepers of the flame, and well, their job is not to keep the light burning, but to keep the story glowing. Without them, many of these magnificent structures would have been lost to neglect and decay. They are the unsung heroes of the modern lighthouse world. Across the globe, preservation societies have sprung up, often started by a small group of local people who just couldn't bear to see their beloved lighthouse fall into disrepair. These organizations, like the US Lighthouse Society or the Association of Lighthouse Keepers in the UK, work tirelessly to raise funds for restoration projects. They spend their weekends painting, plastering, and repairing. They meticulously research the history of their tower, collecting old photographs and the stories of former keepers and their families. They are archivists, laborers, and evangelists, all rolled into one. Their payment is the satisfaction of seeing their lighthouse standing proud and open for future generations. This passion has created a whole subculture of lighthouse enthusiasts. There are phorologists, people who study lighthouses, and lighthouse baggers, who travel the world trying to visit and photograph as many as they can. They have their own magazines, websites, and festivals. It's a community bound by a shared love for these stoic towers and the stories they hold. They understand that a lighthouse is more than just a building. It's a symbol of human resilience, ingenuity, and hope. This network of enthusiasts ensures that even the most remote and obscure lighthouses have someone looking out for them. So while the traditional keeper may have vanished, the spirit of lighthouse keeping is alive and well. It now belongs to everyone who has ever felt a pull towards these lonely sentinels. It lives in the volunteers who give up their time, the tourists who climb the stairs, and the children who stare up in awe at the candy-striped towers. The responsibility for their survival has passed from a few hardy individuals to the many who love them. The light may be automated and the foghorn electronic, but the human connection to these places is stronger than ever. They are no longer just guiding ships. They are guiding our connection to our own past. In a world of GPS and digital charts, do we still need lighthouses? Technology can fail, satellites go down, power cuts happen. When that happens, a lighthouse's steady beam becomes the ultimate backup, guiding ships safely home. Lighthouses are our maritime spare tire. You hope you never need them, but you're glad they're there. Sometimes old-fashioned reliability is exactly what we need. Lighthouses are more than buildings. They're beacons for the human spirit, symbols of hope, resilience, and guidance. Their light shines for everyone, asking nothing in return. In a chaotic world, they remind us to find our guiding light and steer by it. Lighthouses are hope, built of bricks and mortar. Now it's time for a shout out from tester, evaluator and grandpop at WiseHooterLearning to some of our wonderful friends. Shout out to Cousin Julie in Oregon, Ayan Vihan Bro, Power Zone, Event from Bihar, Rimjim Muskan 23, Virginia Nagaway, Nika's Channel, Jsayi 25, SK Shiva Gamer 222, Junior Tech and of course Purnima Niraj. Our journey ends here. From ancient bonfires to modern beacons, lighthouses have guided us through storms, inspired legends, and connected us to the sea. They shine on, symbols of hope, history, and imagination. Thank you for joining me. The light is on. You can come ashore now.
Thank you for watching a WiseHooterLearning video. If you would like a shout out at the end of a future video, please have your first name emailed to WiseHooterLearning@yahoo.com.